Eric is a loser. Eric is drunk. He lives off his dad. He's got not really much going for him at all. He's quite a pathetic person. You look at him, you don't think much of him. Gerald doesn't seem to think much of him. His sister doesn't seem to think much of him. Father doesn't know him, etc. He forces himself. Obviously I would use the word rape, but that's a really loaded word. He forces himself on Eva, etc. He does disgusting thing when he's drunk. He uses class, to kind of, show off to her, etc. Or at least, he uses kind of privileged position in his father's company to kind of get the money when he's trying to give some to Eva, etc. But he does see the error of his ways, he knows, and he's lost a child at the end of this, even though he didn't, and he still tried with Eva to the end, but Eva kind of turned away from him because he had lower kind of integrity than her, and she didn't want to be with someone like that. And he kind of goes through the whole thing kind of afraid. He knows something's up as well. When people kind of mention things to him, he's like, what are you laughing at? He's got this paranoia about him that afraid of paranoia about him, kind of showing that he knows he's done something wrong, which again I guess you could kind of consider one of the setups. So Sheila, again, we mentioned this perception she had at the beginning, but she's childish and materialistic at the beginning, or at least she seems so, daddy and stuff like that, but she does have that perception, and she has an instinct, when she kind of picks up on the inspector's ways and actually what he's trying to get across, then he's kind of a role model for her, someone she latches onto straight away, and then we actually see the changes within her, how she actually tries to then start improving immediately, and shows kind of the socialist agenda, kind of all caring for one another, etc. She becomes the inspector's voice, she's kind of like his kind of shadow or mime, she says everything that he says. She actually completely, and when he's gone, she's the one that still champions the same things. She learns lessons, and it lasts with her. She's kind of got them in her mind, and she's going to be changed after this if nothing else is. So I guess in that kind of she represents the younger generation where Priestley is kind of inviting them more than anything to actually kind of take up this challenge, this gauntlet, and actually change society for the better. Then we've got Gerald. Really don't have much time for Gerald, to be honest with you. He's a stereotype of kind of the, just man about town, can use his power to do anything. He loves himself. He gets into this relationship with Eva, and he's like, well, at least it was nice to Eva. Well, not really, because he did it because he's got a hero complex. He did it because, he wants to feel like he's special. He did it because he makes a difference in life. I don't doubt that, he kind of felt that, Gerald would be the kind of person that was more into the fact that, Eva loved him and he loved her because she loved him, rather than loving her from her own kind of regard. And it's just really sad that, kind of he takes her up and then drops her. It's a similar like just going up to a man in the street, going up to some poor guy in the street and just giving him £1,000. And then, that person from then on will always think that just being given £1,000 in the street is realistic, when, it's not gonna happen. And I think, that's one of the most destructive things for Eva. But obviously you can argue that and disagree and go whichever way you want. At least he knows he was guilty. He needs to go calm himself and walk around after he finds out what he's done, and he's sad about it. And again, he uses power. He uses power several times. He's got his friend that just happens to have a flat which he can kind of borrow. And he at the beginning, he's in that place where in the clubhouse, and he gets him to make her a sandwich and stuff like this. And he just, well, I'll just give you money and that'll keep you going. At the end, it's not really that. Yeah, I don't like him at all, but. Argue how you want for him, and there's the argue but cared for Eva, but I've already mentioned that. And then Eva, obviously Eva, the kind of the one of the most the linchpin of this whole thing. She represents every woman. Her voice is literally not heard, and obviously I think that's kind of purposefully done. We only hear about her through others because this kind of level of society isn't really heard about at the time, and no one's championing their voice, and in fact no one's championing their voice to the extent where someone has to come from another world, this ghoulish inspector to from whatever like realm of consciousness he comes from, to actually kind of bring her to life in a way for us, because she's such a forgotten element of society. She's downtrodden. She tries and tries. She resorts to all sorts. She worked in a factory. She worked in a shop. She even went to. He was going to start hooking, etc., etc. She's really had a hard life, and again, it's just representing so many people who work without kind of rights and benefits of society and really work themselves to the bone. And then she kills herself, as we're told at the beginning, and then we got this idea of killing herself again. Now you can say that oh well, that's Eva's real, that's her really killing herself, that's what's really coming about, and obviously that from the way that the narrative of the story goes, you can fully take that. But it can just as easily be someone else. Just even if the idea is even if the idea, one of the ideas being championed is this happens to everyone. So it's, it could be a different girl, same kind of situation, maybe a situation where just one of them's involved. But still, the point is ultimately that, this happens to those classes and we still have to take care of. Obviously, the most obvious link is that it's Eva, but I just want you to think of what he's also saying with that. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of that. And obviously, whenever you're kind of writing this, you plan, mention points, quote, explain the meaning, and then analyze some language. Link to other characters, ideas, and points in the book or in the play somehow as much as you can, 4 or 5 times, and use developed vocabulary.